This Thing Called Life is a podcast dedicated to exploring the twists, turns, and transformative moments that shape our lives and the lives of others. It is a space where we can share our experiences so we can learn, grow, and empower change. Today we listen to Shawn Jackson. Shawn is a writer, producer, mother, wife, fashion brand visionary, and creative force. She embodies love and radiates light, reminding us that the same brilliance lives within you too. Shawn shares her story growing up as a devout Christian and embracing spirituality through palm reading and her psychic abilities. Shawn talks about her upcoming film, Gypsy in a Quarter, as both a writer and producer. We start the conversation with her describing what it's like to be an empath and its challenges.
Yeah, I found that it makes me a different communicator. It makes me a different wife, mother, friend, boss, because I know what the heart is saying. I know what the trauma is saying. I know what the healing is saying. And so you're constantly put in this, I don't know if I can say separatism, but it's in the church, they would say the flesh, or the circular. And so what I mean by that is in this body, in this life, I have to experience my environment because I'm in it. And a lot of people will try to deny that, like, oh, well, I can't be mad. Well, you can be, your body is reacting to something that happened. But once you recognize what's happening, now I have the choice. I can make a decision. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm always in the place of, I want to be so mad at this person, or I want to not give this person the time of day, but because I really know what the person is saying, now I have a different responsibility. And a long time ago, I made the commitment, my soul commitment, to walk through that or hear that out. And it's fun, but a lot of people don't realize that it comes with a responsibility. Sometimes the responsibility to shut your mouth because what ain't going to change anything. And you telling this person could take them into the opposite direction that they need to go. And I believe things do need to happen organically, meaning the person has to go through that to push and pull, and that tugging of spirit and flesh, or emotion and rationale, and like whatever those balances are, they need to go through that and experience it so that you get the best outcome, even if to the person looking on it was the worst outcome. But you don't know what the formula is. You don't know what's down the road for that person. So this bad thing had to happen for them to get to the good thing later. So if you're in that moment, yes, empaths can get all of that information at one time. We get it all at one time in milliseconds, and then you just go, be quiet. Just shut your mouth and hear this person out. Or it's, yeah, I'm going to upset you today, because the truth about it is you got to do the hard work, and it's not going to be what you want to hear. And, but it allows me to love differently, because then I get to love fully. I get to love fully.
And I love I love how you said like love differently, because it's sort of this balance of, we can hold silent space for someone else. But also sometimes we need to call out when people are doing and saying things that are causing harm, but we can do it from a place of love and compassion and understanding. And I do, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I like that you were saying. I mean, I think one of them was you have an understanding where someone's at in their life, but being empathetic and not trying to guide them in any particular direction, and sort of like, in some sense, walking alongside with them and not like pushing them in certain areas. The other thing that at least I find can be helpful is um, uh, people learn by example. And so It can be incredibly frustrating because it's like, no, you got to do A, B, and C, and sometimes it can be some of the best teachers are the ones that actually do the things that they say, and being an example, I think is can be like a wonderful teacher. Um, but I love everything, all the all the aspects of being an empath, and how you use it as a tool to be of service to other people. And it's been like a learning experience for you too, to kind of navigate what's
Hmm.
going on, what's happening, and what do I do with this experience
Yeah,
right
I didn't
now.
know that word until probably 2000, maybe 17.
Hmm.
So a little less than 10 years ago. And somebody told me like, oh, that's what you are. Because when I was a kid, you grow up and you don't think you're different. And so I had all these assumptions. I get it. I wouldn't even call them assumptions. It's just things I didn't think about until I got old enough to start having conversations with people. And I'd be like, oh, you don't know, like that person is, you know, kind or something, and they'd look at you like, well, how do you know that? Like, I know that because oh, well, and then I just would get quiet, like I
Hmm.
would be like, okay, or it would be times where, and I think this was like, I would compare it to, like when a child is learning a language. I don't know if you've ever like been around a bilingual
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
family, and they have the kid in the parent, one parent speaks Vietnamese and the other parent speaks Spanish or something, and the child tries to figure out that language, so they probably sound like they're speaking Chinese like the first,
Hmm.
like because it's all this language mixed up, but then the
Hmm.
brain automatically will go to it decides which language it's going to lean on the strongest, and then you start to see the separation of that conversation. And so I would describe, understanding your, psychic abilities or spiritual gifts as linguistically in that way, where my conscious mind was trying to understand what I was hearing. So there would be times where somebody would, I literally vote like with my ears would hear somebody say like, I don't want to go to the store. But then the person would say, you want to go to the store? And I'd be like, well, I thought you said you don't want to go to the store. Well, no, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Well, do you want to go to the store? Well, I mean, if you want to go to the store, I don't, but I didn't say that. So I tell people now, think quieter. So sometimes I say, you're thinking too
Just
loud.
think.
Right.
And
So
it's so true
yeah.
about this, like this in you frame it in a beautiful way in language, and it's because what I'm getting at is sort of there's this buffer period or processing. There's this like time even having to process information, right? And like how to kind of navigate the information that I'm getting right now, and it's happening all at the same time. And that's a beautiful way to describe what was happening.
Yeah. And so and I had a twin sister and she passed last August.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously our soul connection was extremely amazing. But my sister was outwardly psychic, as she would have dreams and prophetic dreams, and they would like happen. And,
Mhm.
none of that stuff happened to me. We were in the church. I gave my life to Christ at 10 years old, like knowing what I was doing. And I think I shared a little bit of that with you.
Mhm.
But it was the feeling I had was so much love. Like I was like, oh my God, like what I need more of this, please. And thank you. We would be like taking our Walkmans to school and like we were poor. Okay. So we like we had this little ghetto Walkman and
Uh,
she'd take one of the little earbuds off and I'd hold one and she'd hold one, and that's how we'd walk to school listening to church. And teachers would take we'd be out there preaching the gospel to like 11 and 12-year olds, and because we were upper grade too, so we were the youngest always. And they told us we couldn't talk about church at school, and like they called our parent,
mhm.
and it was just like she was very like really good, like, and when even when she passed she
Mhm.
was she could see, and like she would see people who've passed on and she'd
Mhm.
get scared and freaked out. And And I'd say to her, like, hey, why don't you just ask, ask them what they want? I
Hmm.
said, you control it. You don't have to talk to them right now. But unfortunately, my sister's gifts took her in the opposite direction of me, and she became an alcoholic,
Hmm.
an insomniac.
Hmm.
Um, and she would try to do anything to suppress, you know, dead people
Her, yeah,
wanting to
her
talk to her.
experience, right? It was so overwhelming that I mean, that we have to kind of do something to sort of numb it or tone things down, and it's because it's just so overwhelming that we've got to do something.
Yeah. And
And the
that's one of my gifts too, is to try to teach people how to really channel energy. And I'm like nowhere near close. So
Mhm,
like, I'm not even trying to get into chakra and Kundalini. I am like a teeny tiny baby where that is concerned. But I do understand how the energy moves and how it blocks. And so I'm a natural healer in that
mhm,
as well. I have all of the clairvoyances from what I've
mhm.
been told, but I'm a slow person, and I've asked spirit to take me slow because I
Okay,
think of me watching what my sister went through
I
and getting
see.
it all at once.
Okay.
So I'm always like, yeah, slow down. Let a girl get settled,
Yeah, one step at a time. Let's
right. Let
let's
me
do
let
one
me figure
step.
this thing out a little bit at a time. And so yeah. Yeah.
And so this teaching, is it teaching about chakras? And I mean, can you tell me a little bit about like what
Yeah,
sort of you're
I do.
speaking?
So I'm a palm reader.
Uh-huh.
Ironically, I I went to all girls Catholic
Hmm.
school in Los Angeles, and my religion teacher, um, she caught me two times. I was reading a Harold Robbins novel, and anybody that knows who Harold Robbins, and you definitely shouldn't be reading it at 14, and you definitely shouldn't be reading it at all girls Catholic school. And my religion teacher came over and she says, "Oh, Harold Robbins." And I looked at her and she's like, "I don't think that's appropriate to be reading." And I mean, I was like, "Oh my God, like she knows." She knows what I'm reading. It felt like somebody had like saw through me. And so that was like kind of my first encounter with her. And then we had this amazing project for school where it was called Who Am I? And
Hmm.
everybody had to tell who they were. And I'm Shawn Jackson, and I'm
Hmm.
from Houston, Texas, and I'm a twin. And she's like, "No, okay, that's where you're from."
Hmm.
And so she just made us dig deeper and deeper until it was, I am a person here having an experience. I mean, like, I don't know
Hmm.
how she did it, but it was like a full semester that we did that. And so I think we got to know each other intimately, and our entire student body got to know each other intimately. And there were zero fights, zero cat fight, anything that we were having issues with before. Everybody was looking at everybody differently with
Hmm.
different eyes. And one day, like, just randomly, and it was in class, which is also like the craziest thing, but it's a core memory for me. So probably the way I remember it is much more dramatic than it probably felt. But it was like nobody else was in the room or something. Like, she walked over to me at my desk and she said, "Do you know about palm reading?" And I was like, "I am a Christian girl, okay? Go to church. And my mama don't even go to church, okay? Like, she dropped us off at the church house and we were going to the church. I was like, I didn't want my mom to put up like Halloween decorations. Like, I was a devout
Hmm.
Christian, okay? And she's talking to me about palm reading. And I was like, in religion class, I was like, no. And she makes me open my palm, and then she simply says, "This is your lifeline, this is your money line, and this is your love line." And they can tell you a lot. That is all she said. And when I tell you she dropped the seed, I have never read in a palm reader palm book. Like, I like technically learned how to read a palm, never. And I tried to read one once, and it was so weird. Like, because it was like trying to like break down the lines to specific things, but it was so different than what I do that I didn't read past the second page,
Hmm.
because it was like technalizing, like it was a technique, and that was weird. So in the movie, A Gypsy in the Quarter, that I just wrote with my partner, the main character is a palm reader. And
Mm,
so there is this amazing monologue, amazing because I wrote it. No, this amazing monologue about the palm. And I think that's what's the most important for me is this is what we do the work with,
mhm,
right? We spark thought here, but it doesn't manifest without these,
mhm,
right? So if thoughts are things, then that means that my hands deliver that it delivers it, it manifests it, right? So I always give the example of if I was a bodybuilder or a mechanic, right? You could look at my hands and automatically know that I
mhm,
do something in, you know, labor, right? But if that same person who was a mechanic for 10 years and literally they never didn't have dark marks under their nails, or they
mhm,
were a weightlifter and they never not had calluses on their hands, but if they go 7 to 10 years and they do nothing in the area of that work, slowly over time, their palm will start to change. The calluses will soften. They will almost go to an invisibility that's
mhm,
not there. And then the exact opposite could happen. I could be a person that's never done manual labor. And now I'm doing it. I have blisters and my hands are burning and I have scars and scrapes. And then after so long, my hand will develop calluses to protect those areas that were torn and ripped and
mhm,
hurting, right? So the point I'm trying to make is people think that this is a fortune.
mhm,
It isn't. I look at your past because it tells me who you are right now in the present. That's the most important reason to go back to the past, is that it just tells you where you are right now.
mhm,
But if I understand where I came from and where I am, I can change where I'm going.
mhm,
So some things can't be changed, like, you can't change death, right? Everybody's going to die, right? But you can change how quickly it happens in some cases, right?
yeah,
In some cases, it's just predestined. It was
mhm,
just going to happen no matter what you did. You know what I mean? But it's all the things in between that that can be changed, and so that monologue kind of expresses that. And I love it because I've made this beautiful deposit into, culture
mhm,
that somebody's going to be able to look at palm reading in a very different way and not in a way that it's, Satanism
mhm,
or, whatever people, call it black magic or I don't know,
mhm.
these names that people give it. It's just, it tells the story. Like all of the history is here.
And it's
All of
like,
the history.
and like, I mean, there's so many different like wonderful things. The one thing that was coming to my mind is with palm reading, it's this marriage or blend between like this very ethereal stuff, but it brings it to like the physical world too. And it brings this like this balance of both and yeah, and I really like that. I really like, when we kind of think of spirituality, which it's very like up here in the, what I mean, in the air, in the ethereal space, and but it brings it down to the concrete, very physical, the physical body. And I like having both. I think having both is really important because if we can get lost in other spaces. And I think the palm reading is a nice blend for with both of them. And the other thing that I wanted to, yeah, really quick is I'm wondering how did you navigate? I mean, it must have been challenging or taken some time to manage uh, this psychic ability or this spiritual space of like psychic and palm reading with Catholicism, which is like very, what I mean, A and B, it's very concrete and this and that. And I feel like palm reading and psychic is very fluid and it's like almost opposite.
Very.
And I'm wondering, how did you like, was it challenging or how did do and I think, I mean, it seems like something that made it really easy was this woman, right? This woman that she embodied, like, oh, you can, these things can coexist in one space, and I'm here to show you that they can. But I'm wondering how, yeah, what was it like sort of navigating these two very different things? It's like yin and yang into one.
It wasn't. I didn't do. I honestly, like when I was younger, I didn't do any palm reading.
Hmm.
Ironically, I think the first palm I read might have been my dad's palm. Um, and I knew he would die young, and he did. He passed 9 months before my sister passed. So he passed in was it October of 2023, and my sister passed in um, August of 2025. So less than a year from my father passing. But yeah, and he laughed when I said, "But you'll die a rich man." And we had a laugh. And then I didn't. And I say I didn't because I don't remember, but I probably tried to like read palms or something when I was younger. But the one time that it was very memorable and I've not ever forgotten it. I worked at a resort, and we were all in the break room, and it was dominated by men. There wasn't a lot of women,
Hmm.
and we were very young. Like I was 22, 23 years old. And one of the guys uh, there, somehow people found out I did palm reading. I don't know. I think I might have been like drunk at a party the night before and told somebody. I don't know. Okay. And so I'm reading this guy's palm. His name was Patrick, God, rest his soul. And it was the first time I saw someone who was going to pass. Like it was like right now.
Mm. It was pretty
And
imminent that it was gonna.
like I was like, what the? And when I got to his love line, it was strange because he was also the first person I'd never seen who ever been in a relationship. Like he had never been in a relationship of any sort. And it was weird. And he was young, but it was still weird. Like even young people I'd seen a relationship. Like he had never been in love. He had never been in a relationship. And I, I, and everybody was giving me shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if I can cuss.
You can cuss.
Because I was doing this in an open, in this
Uh,
break room.
yeah.
Oh, I knew she wasn't gonna, you don't know nothing, it's everybody was like, oh yeah. And I was so confused. And the next day, Patrick came to me and he said, hey, I want to apologize for yesterday. And I said, oh, why? Because I was kind of embarrassed and I didn't want to say anything, but I'm gay.
Mm.
And I come from a very religious, I think like Protestant or something, background. And my family would never accept that. And he said something to the effect of, he felt like God didn't love him.
Mm.
Well, and I knew this intimate thing was coming. But me being so young and not really understanding my gift, I mean, sometimes I'm still not. I'm like, I wish people knew, like, I'm reading palms and I'm just as surprised as they are.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Did you see that? Like, oh my, and they're like, and I'm like, no, I'm just getting this from spirit. Like,
Mm.
I'm having an experience with you.
Right.
And so I say to him, whatever you do, because at this point, I'm still very Christian.
Hmm.
And I say to him, you need to give your life to Christ, like ASAP. And he goes, I don't think I'll be. I said, you listen to me. He loves you just like you are, no matter what you think or you say, and he's crying.
Hmm.
And I'm telling him this. And I'm like, whatever you do, just don't do this to, like, he was just like, you're being horrible to yourself. And I think it was 3 days later, we were coming back from a break. We'd had to stay at work really long hours after we were kind of done because it was a commission-based job and they would do like announcements and all this stuff. So we might go get food, come back, or do whatever, for a couple of hours. And we were on our way back to the property, and I can't make this up. I looked up, like literally rolled my window down and looked out, like stuck my head out of the car, And I was like, whoa, do y'all see the sky? And my two friends were in the front seat and they were like, what? It was purple and it wasn't moving. It was just still.
Hmm.
And they were like, oh, it's probably going to rain. And I have chills now when I think about it. And I was like, no, that's weird. Like, do y'all see that? We get back to the resort and there's cars everywhere. And like there's some type of pandemonium going on. And we find out that three guys coming back from the store, same road that we traveled every day, just had a major accident. And Patrick was killed instantly.
Hmm.
Instantly. I lost it. Like, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, it really, to this day, it's still a hard
Hmm.
thing because I saw somebody's end, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel strongly that he did make peace with, you know, because it's important. That was his, you know, that was his religion. That was, you know, what brought him peace. And so anything that is going to make a person bring peace to themselves brings healing, which means it deposits love.
Hmm.
And I strongly feel he left this world, this experience with love. But it jacked me up, Atlas. I didn't read palms for like 6
Oh,
years after
okay.
that. I was just like, I didn't want none of that.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because I mean, that's like an overwhelming experience, and I mean, it involves like death and someone dying. But at the same time, um, like I'm imagining like you with him and him being vulnerable and being honest about his life. And like you're able to give this space of like, hey, this is who I am. And you're like, yes, and that's wonderful. And you can be, and this God is as this loving God is loves you. And it's this like a degree of acceptance. And it's like a wonderful thing that you were able to give him and that space and love and acceptance, like, you know, a few days before. But at the same time, that is like that is a very traumatic thing
Yeah.
to have happen at the same time. Um, I wanted to first before we go into the movie,
Mhm.
and you kind of talked about it a little bit, but it was your turning point, right? And it was this, I believe it was the teacher, right? Can you speak a little bit
Yes.
more about the turning point and what happened, what was
Yes.
going?
So that's what kind of moved me to practice.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, I know I practiced. I did you know, I did some freebie palm reading for a really long time and just um, leaned into that. But that moment, because I was a Baptist person in a Catholic school, learning about palm reading
Hmm.
and being introduced to my gifts not as a spiritual gift or prophetic gift, which is what they say in the church, but
Hmm.
as a psychic gift, you know? And so it opened the doors for me of spirituality. And I had a best friend at the time who was Buddhist. Her family is from Thailand. So you know, there was a very ritual like experience every time we walked into their home, you know, seeing their altars and their incense burning and the respect of the inside of the home.
Hmm.
And so I just learned, it just opened, it was like somebody gave me permission to be this, you know, freak of nature. And was just like, hey, like without saying it's okay, she said it's okay. And the first time I recognized that you know, I was empathic was my mom. I was pregnant with my daughter, I believe, and I was like 24, 25. And my mom came in and I had made this commitment at about 23 that I was going to really lean into this thing and not be so scared of what people were, because I always have this memory of Miss Croft saying to me, hey, this is how you read a palm and this is what it is, and also giving me that I'm not my experience. you know.
Hmm.
um I still get emotional about that, because that's really like that's an amazing thing to give a kid, and I was poor, and I was separated from my entire family, which is pretty big. And in California, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. So very isolated, taken away from my family and my homestead at a really young age. And so it took me a while to find my legs and understand what was going on. And then my sister was having these amazing experiences, though they were scary for
Hmm.
her. It was like but to me, nothing was happening. And so at 23, I decided that I was going to go in the direction of learning more about my spiritual gifts. And I think making the decision, and I wish more people understood that it's just deciding.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just making, a decision. But you make it here. You don't make it here. It's like you know, and she's talking and she's saying something, and for the first time, it was like a separation. And then I identified and I went, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. That's not me. That's not what I'm feeling. Like, and I immediately knew, oh my God, that's what she's feeling. And
Hmm.
then every experience before that, when I'd had that moment of like, why did I come in here fine and now I'm like all feeling weird? It all made sense. And when I tell you, I just did deep dive. Like, it took a long time for things to change. Like one night I stayed up and read the stories of the Israelites in the Bible, but not like I read it in succession. Like, I don't know, I get these downloads. And
Hmm.
so I was just reading one story, and then I would go to a different book in the Bible, read the rest of the story until I read the full, like, you know, like the whole full story. And I realized that everything that they do was ritualistic. And I was like, hold up, man. These people are doing rituals every Sunday and every month, and at Passover. Like, I was like, oh my God. And all of it was based on his love of
Hmm.
them and his commitment to a people that is forever. And so we do this so that we continue to get the commitment. And it was just this beautiful love story. And I remember closing the Bible, the sun was coming up, and I felt full. So then
Hmm.
I also understood why they call it the word, that feeds, and I felt like I could have not eaten anything. I was completely
Hmm.
satisfied. Um, and then I went from that and started learning about um, Eastern religion,
Hmm.
which is where I am now. I and then it's just like the universe opened up, and I started meeting people that are like, oh, you're an empath. Oh, and this is what's going on with you with that. And then this person, I would connect to that person. And that's where, like, I came up with my handle, or my name, Zen and
Hmm.
Paper Girl, because it was bringing in my gift of writing and my spiritual gifts together in one. Like, I learned about the art of Tai Chi and just anything that would bring that flow and that energy and that
Hmm.
peace and that love. And so now I pull on everything. I mean, like, even this picture behind me, my husband's a painter.
Hmm.
And I think she's in some type of goddess pose. I can't think of it. I think somebody told me that they thought it was Celia, or I can't say the name
It's an
right.
incredible painting, by the way.
Oh yeah. But and so I look at everything. I use everything now.
And like, I mean, as I'm listening to you, there's in this progression over time, there's a theme of openness, and you remained open and open, and like I'm opening myself up, and I kept on hearing this word, I'm open and I'm opening, and my heart is opening, and this is opening, and it was just this it's consistent. You're opening, and like what I get is sort of this expanding your awareness of your external world and your internal world expand over time, and more and more things were happening, and all these pieces were falling into place, and it was sort of like, you see the key like entering in, and then like finally the key goes in and it's like the last latch, and then everything makes sense. It was
Mhm.
like the last thing that happened. It was like, oh my God, that's why that happened, and that's why, and that's why. And it's like, oh, it's all sort of making sense, and all the pieces were falling into place. And it's and what it sounds like, it's connected to like writing and sharing your story in beautiful ways. And one of them is, and I want to make sure we talk about for a little bit, is this production that you're doing, and is like it's about and you can like explain a little bit more,
Mhm.
but it's sort of about the palm reader, and it's about a young woman who's going through like a spiritual awakening in Louisiana, I believe.
Yes, so it's called A Gypsy in the Quarter. And just so like there's a connection there. Yes, so I write, um, and it's always been very therapeutic. At the same all girls Catholic school, I
Hmm.
wrote my first script, and I wrote it with pencil on lined college paper. And one of my friends read it, and then because this is when we used to read. Yeah. And one of my friends read it, and then somebody sitting next to her said she wanted to read it, and everybody was talking about it in the school. I didn't get my script back for probably 3 weeks.
Hmm.
A lot of people read it. John Singleton's cousin actually went to my school, and she was like, but I didn't know who he was at the time. Like that name wasn't familiar to me.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Oh, my cousin's a filmmaker, and you should give me your script so I can take it to him." And I was like, it was so LA. Like, no, I'm fine. And it was like so funny. But everybody, it was like a buzz around the school talking about this script, um, and I think the first time I recognized that I really truly could affect people was my sister's in, after her wedding, the dinner after you go to a wedding. And I was just making a toast.
Hmm.
But I wrote this beautiful poem about my sister. And after I'd finished, nobody said anything. There was like this great silence. And my godmother said, "Please tell me somebody recorded that." Nobody recorded it. And I was like, whoa, they were captured. Like, whoa. I was like, wow, I could be effective. And my sister and I were in I was a dancer, I was an actress, I was a model. So I've been in the arts my whole life as a creative. And obviously I need to be able to express. And it's easy for me to do it because of my spiritual gifts. So
Hmm.
that's how it benefits me. And that's one of the first questions that you asked me. It makes me a better writer because I don't just feel, I can feel a word, and then make it move. I can make and then that becomes a sentence, and that sentence becomes a paragraph, and that paragraph becomes a page, and that page becomes pages.
Hmm.
And and so it like morphs. And even now I'm writing I don't know what you call it. I just named it the 5D theory.
Hmm.
And I've been studying um, uh, like physics and like it's kind of weird, but yeah, I've been I've been like studying the brain and
Hmm.
you know, uh, and it's a download of just pages and I don't even know where like I'm literally writing as I'm writing. I don't know where this is coming from. Like it's just getting downloaded. So when this project came to me, my partner, his name is Tony Patterson. I wrote for his music magazine for about 8 or 9 years. I did red carpet for him. We did interviews. Um, He'd been wanting to get into film for some time, but I wanted to take a step back from everybody else's stuff. I was a spokesperson for a nonprofit called, you know, uh, the Society of Women Who Love Shoes. It was for survivors of domestic violence. I had did that and had a podcast, and you know did all hosted all these events and all these different things. And I was working for his music magazine, and I helped entertainers try to get like managed a few, like a playwright. I managed a hip hop group. I mean, like I had all of these
You've
things
done
that,
it all.
yes. I had all of these things that I was doing for other people, but I
Uh-huh.
wasn't pouring into myself.
Hmm.
And so I took a break and really worked on Zen and Paper Girl and built my brand. Like I'm wearing my brand now. um, Built my brand, built my website, really tried to get my imagery out there and just spend some time with myself,
Hmm.
um, learning Kundalini and meditating more. And I started actually actively reading palms and getting paid uh, to do it. Because in the church, how dare you ask for money for your gifts, you know? And I had a few clients and I read for them on a regular basis. And then it just so happened that I had a friend who wanted to do a video, like a little video for to celebrate her year of having a girls' home.
Hmm.
And she wanted this cute video. And I was like, girl, you need something more high end. And so I said I had a friend who had a production company and I'd call him and see if he gave her a good deal. And we hadn't talked in probably 18 months over the phone. And he goes, I'll do it for $900. 900. I was like, what? He goes, under one condition, you do this movie with me. And it was just like all the stars aligned. And
Hmm.
my kids are, you know, out of the house. My daughter's in college and was in college at the time, and my son is out of the house. And you know, I was like, you know what, let's go for it. And he actually wrote a different premise. It was a completely different premise. And after I said yes, he just calls me up and he's like, hey, what do you think about this premise? It's a girl, she goes to New Orleans, she gets this, you know, palm reading and finds out that she's going to die. Can you write it? And I was like, out of all the things, Tony and I have never talked about my gift.
That's
I don't
incredible.
talk to my gifts to anyone. But if you dig deep enough or you know me long enough, you know that
Hmm.
I do it, you know? And I said, why did you choose palm reading? He was like, well, you know, I know you do a little bit of that, you know, because I don't talk about it. It's very taboo. I'm still like a little like, you know,
Hmm.
I don't talk about it in certain circles. And he said, so I thought if anybody knew how to write this, it would be you. And I wrote a 119-page script and all based on palm reading. Like, what are the chances? Like, how does that happen in
Hmm.
real life? Like the girl from LA who learned palm reading from her religion teacher at an all girls Catholic school, also where she wrote her first script, gets to make her debut with her gift. Like, like you pinch yourself. Like,
Shawn,
what?
your life is a movie.
It
Your
is.
your
You have
life
no
is,
idea.
and it's like the other like it's such a one. And I'm so I'm so glad you have this experience because I mean, and I'm sure you've had this many times before, but there's these moments where like we feel like life is happening for us, and that like that God universe is like literally it's creating a path that is like handing it over to you on like a platter of like this is for you, and it's a wonderful it's such a uh it's such a wonderful, I mean, that doesn't even describe sort of like what I'm trying to, you feel sort of connected, completely to source, to God and to universe when we have these moments. And that's a wonderful thing to have.
Yes.
Um, the other thing I wanted to chat about, and I love your story of poetry. And using and noticing how powerful words are. Words carry meaning, words carry experience, and putting it on paper, and it's a powerful experience for the people that are writing it, but also the people that are hearing it too. Because I mean, I love poetry. I sort of like one of these like epiphany moments happened when I started writing poetry. I love it.
Oh,
I do classes where we engage with poetry, and I was looking at your it was like a list of some of your poetry on your website, and
yeah.
this one jumped out at me. I was sort of like scrolling through, and I was intuitively it was just like, you should look at this. You should look at this one, and it was innumerable shards.
Oh.
And I'm wondering,
Mhm.
I mean, I can, because I know you don't have it right in front of you.
Yeah.
I could maybe read like a few of the sentences, and you can,
Yeah.
if you want, you can kind of like talk to a bit more about it.
Yeah.
It's so this was innumerable shards, and it says, "How many pieces can I shatter into? The moment that I mended, I break again. I must have been a privileged girl in another life who caused innumerable damage consciously. Maybe I was a sociopath, or maybe I was deeply wounded with hurt and disappointment, leading me to want into this life to understand more about my subjects, because this life doesn't feel much like it should. But then what should I feel like? I have nothing to compare better to, only better than this. Does this make me a morbid individual? Have I passed on? They'll say I was brilliant, but now they call me a victim. I say it in a whisper, but still they want me to be softer. I roar and they expect me to scream out louder. When I speak with confidence, they call me a bitch or a whore. What to do, what to say, where to go, where to lay. Over it, but it never stops. Where is my glass slipper? The clocks strike 12. I'm jealous of the dead girl because death demands transparency. I envy the silence because there's a peace in honesty. I appreciate the struggle because in it lies your strength. In time, you will soothe just some thoughts inside a girl's head. I speak my truth."
Mm. Wow.
If that's not power, I don't know what is. Okay, there's so much there, and I mean, yeah, you can. I would love to hear more from you about poetry in this piece.
Yeah. Poetry is my journal. That piece was, it's so, that's funny that you bring that one up. I had, I always, there's this idea for me that was such a core belief that I had this is not my first time having the experience on earth. And I believed that I didn't say it in that poem, but I believed that I was a rich white man
Hmm.
in a different life. And I never knew how I knew that. Well, recently, about 2 years, 3 years ago, I had a reading from a psychic, and he told me that. And then I actually found the person. And what really blew me away was that his day of his death was my birth date.
Really? How did you find? How did you find like the actual person?
He
And
told me that I was a plantation owner and I
hmm
was really good at it. I was
hmm
very rich.
hmm
And he told me what he thought the plantation was. And so I just kept digging and digging. And then I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what the is this? So that very first part of it was, it felt like karma.
hmm
And I didn't mean it in a bad way when I said it. I just meant that I knew whatever I was experiencing, for some reason I was experiencing by choice.
hmm
And so that was me questioning my past lives. That's what
hmm
that first part is. And the innumerable shards are just all of the dimensions of who we are.
hmm
Um all the layers of who we are. And so and it's true, but then I'm also older. I was much younger when I wrote that. And now I understand, to strengthen my muscle, I have to rip it apart.
hmm
And so the pain that I feel the next day is the healing of that muscle. And then it gets bulkier and it gets stronger. And then I
hmm
go the next day and I rip it again and I shred it again. And then you go through this process to build the muscle and get it stronger. You rip it down, you break it down, then you build it up, and you break it down and you build it up. And so that's why I was making the point, like the moment that I heal, it's like I'm right back to something else.
hmm
And so what I've learned over time is that what we look at as test, like in a negative way,
hmm
are things that we've asked the universe for, God for, you know. And in order for the universe to deliver on that, there's things that has to happen, and we don't always realize that the things that are happening because one, you either want to overcome something, so then the problem keeps presenting itself over and over and over again, and so we're not passing the test, meaning you're not getting the lesson.
Hmm.
And so it's so funny. I still feel a lot of the same way when I heard you read that back. um I used to have an image of myself like in a glass window screaming, and it just nobody can hear me. It was just like I'm just screaming as loud as I can, and I want somebody to hear me, and nobody's hearing me.
Hmm.
And so that was, kind of the feeling of that poem, is just like, am I the only person going through this? Like, what is going on? Like, yeah.
And I really, really appreciate these analogy of like the muscles, and we have to sort of tear things apart to build them up. The other thing that comes to my mind is sort of like um bones. When we break a bone, it heals actually stronger than before. And it kind of shows the value of, breaking or going into pieces. Like it's so valuable that you actually turn out even better than before.
Yeah.
And being able to share that experience, I think, is a wonderful thing. And sharing it through poetry, I mean, that's a powerful thing. But sharing it on in movies and writing, I think like the one I wanted to ask you, I feel like more and more you're understanding like how powerful one you are, but also the words you write are. And I feel like watching these words come to life was a bit of an experience of these things that you're, and I'm wondering what that was like, of like, okay, I've got this, I'm a writer, I'm
Mhm.
writing, and at times it's like these words aren't my words, but I'm gonna put them down anyway. And you're having fun. I completely imagine you're having the time of life when you're writing down these stories. And that's one experience. But handing it over to people to then create it and create it into motion picture has to be a completely other experience. And I'm wondering what that was like.
Mhm. It was. It so I literally cried on set. I'd worked on one of the scenes, and you imagine this and reimagine it and reimagine it,
Hmm.
and then we're on set and we're filming it, and I just looked in the camera, and Tony's like, "Here, come look at this," and I was just like, oh my, I had to walk away. And
Hmm.
everybody thought I was crying because my sister had just passed,
Mm.
maybe 3 or 4 weeks before that. And it was a bit of about her, because I didn't even know how I was standing. Like, I didn't even know how I was able to be even here in this moment. But I know my sister, and this was a dream that she and I had. My sister was the first person to put me on a movie set.
Hmm.
She was a makeup artist, um, amongst other things, and a dancer. But in that moment, I could just hear my sister like, "Bitch, we did it! Yes!" I knew she was like, "Yes, like that's what I'm talking." Like, I just knew she was just like so proud. But to see something that you had written and then it looks exactly like you expected
Hmm.
it. I mean, I just was just like, just floored. I don't know why my phone. I'm going to pull this out for a second. So sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, now we're charging. I don't know. I had to like pull it out of my stand. So sorry. But yeah, I know that she was like just beside herself.
Hmm. And it was like, I mean, it was a bit of your family and your sister being there and being there with you, and you knowing that she's there with you, but at the same time also like seeing this unfold in front of you.
Hmm.
I think it sounds like it was like an overwhelming experience. And the one thing I wanted to ask you is, what would you have, like, what advice would you give someone else out there that is trying to figure out their life. They don't know what to do, or maybe they're trying to figure out their own spirituality or their own identity. What's one thing that helped you, something small that like anyone can do at any point in their life? What's something that helped you in along your spiritual path, and that some advice you can give to another person?
Pay attention to the signs.
Mm-hmm.
And for a person that may not understand that, what I mean is the patterns,
Mm-hmm.
the things that repeat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't focus on the thing that's happening. You focus on what's happening in the body when the thing is repeating or when the sign is being, revealed. Um, because if you listen, it will give you direction. It will help you to make decisions, because really that's life is that's all it's about, is decision. What am I going to eat? What am I going to, what am I going to wear? Those are decisions that we just take for granted daily.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of those decisions change your outcome. So that's why I also believe in, multiple realities.
So the one thing that wanted to end with is how can people support you? How can people support a Gypsy in the Quarter? How can people support you and your brand? The people that are listening, yeah, how can people support you?
Yes. So Zen and Paper Girl on all platforms. The I I do, palm reading. So if somebody wanted to DM me or, email me for, I do actual color therapy.
Mhm.
I do healing charts for my clients. Um, and so it's something that my gift is designed to help people find what's blocking them so that they can heal. And so I'm not, just so everybody knows, it's not warm and fuzzy type of stuff, okay? It's not sparkles and magic. It's
Mhm.
work. It's a
Mhm.
lot of tears, it's a lot of pain. But it brings you through it so that you can release the blockage, so that
Mhm.
whatever flow you want coming into your life will come into your life. So I do Zen and Paper Girl in that way. But then I
Mhm.
also have a brand, and you can go to zenandpapergirl.com and purchase my products. My brand is based in love and peace. So my tagline or my motto is, I am love, I am light, and so are you.
Mhm.
And so my fashion is designed to give light and to
Mhm.
give love, because I feel like when you're wearing it, you're speaking it, you're owning it. And that's one of the things I do with my healing is, if I'm telling you, hey, you need to wear green today, that's because we're working on the heart chakra. And anytime you see green, it's going to ignite healing unconsciously without you
Mhm.
knowing it. But then when it becomes conscious, you can pay attention to it. So it's love gear. Okay.
Mhm.
And then I also have my I call it my online journal, my little slice of heaven, which is ShawndraJackson.com, or I think it's ShawndraJackson.wordpress.com. And that's where my poems are. Or you can just hang out with me on Instagram or Facebook as Zen and Paper Girl. And my first movie is coming out this winter, exclusively on Tubi, and it's
Mhm.
called A Gypsy in the Quarter. So um, that's me.
Be on
And
the
People of
lookout.
Color Films is the
Mhm.
production company. People of
Uh,
Color Films.
and can people also, there's YouTube as well. There was like a YouTube channel that
Yes, I have a YouTube channel, Zen and
okay.
Paper Girl. I have a series that's called the 5 Day Restart. So if anybody wants to do like kind of a energy refresh, it's 5 days of how to get yourself back to a clear energy level. And People of Color Films also has a YouTube page. That's where you can see all of our behind the scenes footage for Gypsy in the Quarter and the new project we're working on, which is called Hollow Room.
Wonderful. Shawn, thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for being on this thing called life. Thank you for sharing your story, for doing and saying the things that you're afraid to do. Thank you for creating and But importantly, thank you for sharing the things that you're creating. I think that's incredibly valuable for you, but it's incredibly valuable for other people to see themselves and see their stories in another person. So thank you for it all, and we'll make sure to put all this information on our description.
Awesome. Thank you, Atlas. It was fun. And I want my t-shirt, so I'm sending you my size.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Shawn continues to write and produce in Texas and is currently working on her next feature film, The Hollow Room, produced by People of Color Films, and her business partner and director of photography, Tony Patterson. You can watch the trailer for Gypsy and a Quarter on YouTube and watch the film as it debuts on Tubi this winter. You can find more of what Shawn has to offer on her website at zenandpapergirl.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, or share with others. You can head on over to our donations page at thisthingcalledlife.center. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. If you or someone you know would like to share their story, send us an email at thisthingcalledlife7@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for listening and being with us on this thing called life.